Hello, everyone, and very welcome to this webinar, which will focus on how urban mobility solutions and design choices can improve accessibility and inclusion. I will share my screen with you so you can see our presentation. Perfect. This webinar is a part of a research project funded by the Nordic Council of Ministers and is titled WIN ITS, which is a short for Women in Nordic ITS. The project explores inclusion, gender equality, and related issues within the intelligent transport systems, ITS sector, let's say. The initiative involves EIT Urban Mobility, Trivector Traffic, and national ITS organizations from both Finland, Estonia, Norway, and Iceland. And I want to give a special thanks to Pirette and Pia at EIT Urban Mobility, who has played a key role in planning this webinar. We have a highly knowledgeable and engaging panel today who will share their work on creating more inclusive cities. And my name is Julia Nyberg, and I will be guiding you through this session today. I work as a consultant at Trivector Traffic, which is a Swedish consultancy dedicated to bridging the gap between research and practice within the field of sustainable transport. And in the panel today, you find Ronny Utriainen, Lina Mosshammer, Hanna Wennberg, Raoul Feliu, who will talk about inclusive cities from their different perspectives. Lina is the CEO and founder of the mobility platform Point End. And as a mobility expert, she has over 10 years of experience in mobility research, policy, and innovation, both when it comes to the national and the international levels. She is also a co-founder of the Women in Mobility Network in Austria, and also a lecturer at the Salzburg University of Applied Sciences. And today, Lina will present the latest trend report on accessible, affordable, safe, and sustainable mobility. This is a new report, and it's based on insights from over 100 experts across Europe, and also an analysis of more than 300 startups. Very impressive. Welcome, Lina.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. So I'm waiting for the handover for my slides, but I can already start. As CEO of Point End, we are focusing on innovative mobility that works for all. So we are focusing on different target groups. And with that mission, we are also part and coordinating together with Impact Hub Vienna and with Productized from Portugal, Better Mobility, the ecosystem Better Mobility, and it's also funded by AIT Urban Mobility. So also very thank you to Raoul, who is also presenting later on. I think I can already click. I will try. Yes, and the Better Mobility ecosystem, as said, is focusing on accessible, safe, affordable, and sustainable mobility solutions. So now there are my slides. I will already get to the point. So the Better Mobility ecosystem has this mission on accessible, affordable, safe, sustainable, innovative mobility. And I would say at the center, at the heart, is our accelerator program, where we accompany 12 startups from all over Europe every year on their mission. The focus is on direct access to living labs to really get testing their innovations, but also work together with cities and public mobility provider, but also private, to get their solutions into practice and boost investment and in their impact readiness. So you can already see it's all over Europe and partly even beyond. And we are, as I said, very much focusing on getting into the urban field, into really collaborating with cities, but also with different interest groups and target groups to make mobility solutions as inclusive as possible. And here are just a few pictures of our workshops that we did over the first 2 years of our Better Mobility Accelerator. We now got more into depth, and it's not just 100, it's 300 startups now in our database that are focusing on people's mobility. And just three of them, so you have a bit of an idea what could those solutions be. For example, Lendocare, 2 years ago, they were part of the accelerator program focusing on mobility equipment as a service. So for example, if you're going on a trip, you will have your wheelchair, your mobility equipment already at your hotel, at the train station. It's also solutions such as Cocoon, which is an airbag system for child seats on bikes. Or for example, there are a lot of solutions on active mobility, as you can see. CycleBee, which is focusing on planning cycle tours, but with this lens of inclusiveness on families, on what is really important through a cycling trip if you're traveling with children, for example, or if you just have higher safety needs, for example. And we said that this has a really high potential, and to see what's coming up next, how should and will inclusive mobility develop. And that's why we decided to do the trend report on better mobility, which is also co-founded by the Vienna Business Agency. And we also collaborate again with AIT Urban Mobility, leveraging on their European-wide network. And together we identified over the last year trends, market trends and needs, especially on better, on inclusive mobility. And with that, we want to highlight what's next and where you should also maybe piggyback on. We did a set analysis of 300 startups. We also had workshops, questionnaires, and interviews with over 100 experts from Europe. And the results will be presented tomorrow, and also the report will be available starting tomorrow to download on our websites, Better Mobility EU, or also Point End EU, and showcasing the top 5 inclusive mobility trends and details and also solutions within those trends. It's also a huge trend map showing you the different, like what's going on and what's important within those 5 trends, and focusing on the solutions, also outcomes on where do we already have a lot of solutions, where might we miss or there are not enough solutions yet. What are the what is the focus now, and what should the focus be in the future when it comes to mobility innovation? So that's what you can expect. In the discussion, I can already give a bit of insights on that, but would also love to see some of you tomorrow at our webinar in English, and then a week later in German. And of course, you can download the results starting tomorrow. I think it's even translated by AIT in 5 different languages. So a lot of possibilities to do that. And I think it's the wrong version, wrong way. Yeah, that's it. You can go through the QR code and take a look. What are those 5 trends? Maybe already start working on it and leverage on the results. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lina. Very exciting to hear about this new report and also get a glimpse of the results. And I hope that many people will listen to you tomorrow as well. Very good. We will save the questions for later, but please put your questions in the chat for Lina and the other speakers. And we will continue with our next speaker, who is Raul Faliu, who leads the Startup Support Program Strategy at the EIT Urban Mobility. And that program strategy is focusing on early stage impact-driven companies. And with nearly 15 years of experience, Raul plays a key role in empowering the next generation of entrepreneurs who are developing urban mobility solutions to make our cities more livable. We are very happy to have you here. So please take the digital stage, and I will give you the control over the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Julia. And let's see if this works. With a bit of delay, but it should be working. Just going to click again. Okay, let's see. Now, okay, here we go. Thank you very much again for having me in the session. Let's see if we go directly to the first slide of content. We're experiencing some delay. Here it is. Okay. So I will be starting the presentation by sharing a personal experience, because by the time I was preparing the presentation, I was thinking about urban mobility not just being about infrastructure and technology. It's indeed about people. And here you can see a picture of myself riding a bike, cargo bike, with my kids. And it's in Barcelona, as you can see, and we are just enjoying a ride, healthy experience in a quite wide street next to Barcelona Beach. And while riding, I mean, one can wonder how safe and accessible those streets are in other parts of Barcelona. Not all of them are like this, and even in other European cities, you face also some roads, some parts that are not as safe, as accessible as they would be expected to be. And when thinking about parents like myself, other elderly individuals, people in wheelchairs, those with vision impairments or temporary injuries, then you can think about, okay, are we all able to move as freely as we are, or as we were here while riding the bike on the beach? Our city is designed for everyone. And this is, well, the topic that I'll be covering, with a side view on the startup support that we provide by equitable mobility. So the challenge that we face in accessible mobility is not a challenge only for a small group of people. It affects all of us, but some of those groups which are underrepresented citizen groups suffer the most the consequences. We can think about disabled people. We see here the percentage is a bit cut, but I can give you the numbers of 25% of the European population having some form of disability. Groups of kids, which we can put as under 5 years old, account for 4.5%, or over 80 years, it accounts for 6.5% as of now, but it's going to be 15% according to expectations for 2100. And we can add this, the temporary injuries group or pregnant woman. Those are the ones that are suffering the most of the consequences for not having accessibility in our transport systems. And consequences can be, we just point the main to social exclusion with isolation, or economic exclusion with unequal job opportunities. Let me go to the next one. Here it is. And this is why we are here also from equitable mobility. We have to contribute to inclusive mobility. We have the main mission to accelerate the transition to sustainable urban mobility. And we believe that inclusive mobility is a fundamental component of sustainable cities. So addressing it in a collaborative, engaging ecosystem like the one we have created around urban mobility is crucial in our point of view. We have gathered over 1,000 organizations that we partner with, including cities, research and development organizations, educational institutions, startups, and all these, with all those partners, we conduct different initiatives to contribute to ensure that accessibility and inclusivity is taken into account in European cities. This collaborative approach also involves landing innovation mobility solutions in the market in our cities. And we see this also as a key area of action to accelerate this transition to the sustainable mobility, and also put Europe in the front line for a competitive advantage over other regions that we would like also to export. At the end, it's a benefit for everyone. It has not to stay only under Europe. Because of this, we also invest in startups. We pilot new solutions. We support policies to make urban transportation systems more accessible for all. And let's see now some of the initiatives. Okay, so with one of the initiatives that we have, and that Lina very gently presented with the trend report, We have the Inclusive Mobility Accelerator. Indeed, Better Mobility Accelerator is how we name it. And it is a pan-European program. It takes 6 months. And there we support startups that develop these innovative solutions and business models tailored to mobility needs of diverse user groups. We have so far supported 25 startups dedicated to develop innovation solutions for accessible mobility and inclusive mobility. And this year in 2025, we're having a new batch. In about 2 months, it's going to close the call for applications. So if you are a startup and you have interest in the program, go and check our website and you can still apply. This is one of the startup support initiatives that we have in the form of an accelerator, but we also fund projects. Here I would like to highlight 3 of the, here it is, thank you, Julia. We have the Raptor project, which indeed is rapid applications for transport. And we developed this initiative because mobility challenges differ from city to city. And that's why the Raptor projects directly work with urban areas to co-develop initiatives, practical solutions for specific accessibility problems, like the ones that we have here referred. One in Graz, Austria for smart accident prevention, one in Helsinki, Finland, with a mapping of accessible pathways conducted in collaboration with one of the startups that we have invested, which is Dreamwaves from Austria. And last one that we're going to refer is the Las Rosas from Madrid. It was a solution to have more accessible ways for pedestrians crossings. All these are initiatives framed within Raptor, and indeed we have 2 clear examples also of Raptor projects conducted with the startups that we have invested into. Yes, Julia, next one. Thank you. And this one, we can see that it's also part of our mandate to really engage with these startups that have an innovative solution that puts sustainability, indeed accessibility and inclusivity at the forefront of their solutions. Aslimob, the first one from Spain, they developed a pilot in Cunit City in Spain, also intended to develop this smart data collection. And it was, again, I have some more information here. It was addressed to detect irregularities in the pavement, collect inventory of signals, and then provide this information to the public authorities for business intelligence. Second one that we can refer is AD Night, also within the Raptor project, which was CARP management in Tel Aviv city. So they helped the city officials to prioritize pedestrians while accommodating other users and having this into account when defining the transportation system and the planning. This is just 2 examples of the startups that we have invested into. We have invested as of now more than 130 startups, and out of those ones, 24, so 1 out of 5 has in their solutions a solution addressing accessibility, infrastructure, and road safety, but we also can include here urban planning and transport planning for more inclusive approach from the cities that we have in Europe. I would like to close my part with these insights and again open the door to all the organizations that have interest in promoting this accessibility and inclusive mode of transportations to link with us, especially if you are startups. I'll be glad to contact you. Thank you very much, Julia. Back to you.
Thank you, Raul, and sorry for the missing slides.
No worries, we covered the content. All good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you. And I'm happy that you shared your thoughts on the importance of working with these kinds of questions that is a core pillar in sustainability and also affects us all. So thank you so much. Now it's time for our next speaker, and that is Anna Wennberg. She is an expert in road safety and sustainable transport planning at Trivector Traffic. And Hannah has extensive experience in leading research projects on road safety, social sustainability, and planning for pedestrians and cyclists. She is also the chair of the Equality in Transport network here in Sweden. And this network actually celebrated 20 years a couple of years ago, and it's working to bring together Sweden's leading transport professionals that works with gender equal transport planning. And Hannah earned her PhD from Lund University in 2009, and her dissertation focused on elderly pedestrians. But today she will talk more about traffic safety. So please, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. Let's see if I can switch my slides.
A moment. I hope you can now.
I think so. My topic today is on 30 kilometers per hour as a matter of gender equality. Here is my starting slide. So I will talk about 30 kilometers per hour as a matter of gender equality. My starting point is Vision Zero and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, in which traffic safety is integrated. And let's see. Here it comes. I think I switched now. I will click once again. Now it works. And also the Stockholm Declaration from 2020, which sees traffic safety as a part of sustainability. And this declaration also emphasizes that we all should start in all the positive synergies that we have between traffic safety and other sustainability goals. And one example is, for example, the 30 kilometers per hour, where we see a lot of positive synergies. And last week, we also had the Global Traffic Safety Conference in Marrakesh. And that continues this integrated approach for traffic safety, but it focuses even more on organizations' responsibility. So this is the starting point, and my focus is on 30 kilometers per hour, and efforts for 30 cities addresses several policy areas. And this slide shows an overview from a review that is done by the researcher Georg Jannis, and it shows implementation of 30 cities around Europe in 40 European cities, and all the positive effects on both traffic safety, but also on different environmental aspects, and also reducing traffic congestion in some cases. So many positive effects shown in this study. And the 30 movement around Europe is, I can say, it's also facilitated by the technical development that we see. For example, that we have that we work very systematic with speed management, of course, and selecting the appropriate speeds, but also designing support environments. But also that we have speed monitoring on roads, and also the driver support systems that we see in vehicles, which is really increasing now, and with geofencing of vehicles and so on. And I think that kind of solution also puts responsibilities on organizations who owns vehicles and who operates the roads and vehicles in different ways. So, but my focus is also on how reduced speeds in urban areas is also a matter of gender equality, because we know that many studies have been done that shows differences between men and women as group. Of course, I mean, we are all individuals, but if we see many women as groups, we can see many differences in behavior, but also in attitudes and power and so on. And this slide shows just one example, one study, which is about how people perceive traffic safety. It is from the Swedish Transport Administration's traffic safety survey. And we see there are differences between men and women for all age groups when it comes to how risky they perceive that traffic is, but also on the perceptions of traffic safety measures. For example, it's reasonable to lower the speed limit to increase traffic safety. Women are far more positive to these kind of measures than men are in general. And this next slide also I think is a very interesting result. It shows data on collisions between pedestrians and between passenger cars. We have used data from an insurance company in Sweden, combined with data from a national travel survey. And what we can see here that if you are in the accident as a pedestrian, we see that 63% are actually women. And in the accident as a car driver, we have 72% that are men. And if you compare that with the exposure, if you're talking about car kilometers and walk kilometers, we can also see that women are actually overrepresented and men are actually overrepresented as at the hitting part in the accident. So who runs on who is also a matter of gender, we can see in this study. And my last slide is just to show an analysis that we did on effects of if we reduce the base speed limit in urban areas in Sweden. Today we have 50 kilometers per hour as base speed limit in urban areas. If we lower it to 30 or 40 kilometers per hour, we can see that we have positive effects, both on traffic safety in objective terms, but also how people perceive safety in traffic, which is very much related to active mobility and so on, encouraging walking and cycling. And we see we had a little more stronger effects for pedestrians than for cyclists, but for both groups. And if we compare age group, we saw that for traffic safety, we have very positive effects for older people. But if we talk about perceived safety, we also have positive effects, especially for children and how parents perceive the traffic environment for their children. And we also did an analysis on basis of, sorry, that was too fast. Let's see if I can go back. And when comparing genders, we see that for women, we also have positive effects on lowering the speeds, especially to 30 kilometers per hour. And there are rather, it's small gender differences when it comes to traffic safety, but when it comes to perceived traffic safety, we can really see a potential by lowering speeds. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Very interesting to see what is visible for you when you use gender analysis on the data that you analyze, like in this case. I think it's very interesting. I will take the control again, and I will also introduce our next speaker. Roni Utriainen is a traffic engineer specializing in traffic safety at the city of Helsinki in Finland, and his work includes monitoring and analyzing traffic safety trends, developing traffic safety design principles for road and street planning, and also collaborating with transport planners to enhance safety. Roni holds a PhD from the doctoral program of Built Environment at Tampere University, with his dissertation focusing on traffic safety and new vehicle technologies. So we will hear more about traffic safety and inclusive cities now. Please, Roni, take the stage.
Thank you, Julia. Nice to meet you all. My name is Roni Utriainen from city of Helsinki, and I'm happy to talk about traffic safety and especially Vision Zero today from the perspective of Helsinki. And I can see, Julia, that you gave me the control, but maybe there's still some missing because it
I will
seems
help
like
you
that.
and see if it will be better during the presentation.
Yeah, thanks. So as a background, I just would like to highlight how people usually move in Helsinki. So here you can see the main mode of transport in trips made inside the city by the residents of Helsinki. And here you can see that walking is a very popular transport mode in Helsinki. About 40% of all trips are made by pedestrians, and overall share of sustainable transport modes is rather high also. And this also reflects to traffic safety. So this is maybe the one reason why we should focus on safety of pedestrians especially, and also shows that we have probably evolved in quite a good way in that manner, because the share of pedestrians is quite large at the moment. Yes, next please. So as a background, I'd like to also highlight that where our key traffic safety measures are determined. So we have a traffic safety development program, which is mostly involving traffic environment related measures, but there are also other measures. And also you can click one time, yes. And even though we like to promote safety of all road user groups and age groups, we have decided to focus especially on children and the youth and the pedestrians and cyclists. And this not only means that there should be less crashes, but also walking and cycling should be perceived as safer, and also accessibility should be improved. And here you can also see a little bit of our goals for traffic safety. So we have a long-term vision 0, so that no one needs to die or get seriously injured. But we have also a long-term goal to halve the number of fatalities and injuries from the level of 2020 to 2030. So next, please. And how is it going at the moment in Helsinki? So here you can see the number of fatalities starting from 1980s, and this graph shows that the number of fatalities has decreased a lot during that period. And if we take a look starting from 1980s, we can see that the number of fatalities has decreased even about 80%. So there has been a really good progress in that terms. So in recent years there have been about 4 or 5 or 6 fatalities annually. So of course we would like to reach the vision 0 there. So there's still a lot to do. And one thing to also highlight here is that the number of pedestrians fatalities have been in many years the largest road user group there. And this also indicates that there still need to focus on pedestrian safety, even though the number of pedestrian fatalities have decreased a lot over time. Next, please. And what Helsinki has done to promote traffic safety, and especially pedestrian cyclist safety too. So I would say that reducing speed limits in many different times have been one of the most important measures to promote safety. Here you can see some speed limit maps from recent decades, and for instance in the beginning of 1970s and also in the 80s, 50 kilometers per hour was the most common speed limit in Helsinki. But today map looks rather green, meaning that the 30 kilometers per hour is the most common speed limit in Helsinki. And this is the case especially in residential areas, but also many other streets. Next, please. And regarding pedestrian crossings are really important for safety, because at the moment about 60% of all pedestrian injury crashes have occurred on pedestrian crossings. So the safety of those areas are important. And we have done, I think Helsinki have done a lot for this, but I think we still have room for improvements. And based on our recent guidelines, we have identified more than 200 pedestrian crossings on main streets where the number of vehicles is typically the largest. So we have found these areas where we should find a solution to promote pedestrian safety, and this could mean, for instance, raised pedestrian crossings, or street narrowing, or reducing speed limits, or these kind of measures. And one thing that is also becoming more common are these continuous sidewalks next to the main next to the intersection of Main Street and the local streets. So these continuous sidewalks are becoming more common, and they especially improve walking environments and also accessibility. And next, please. And regarding cycling, so Helsinki has a ambitious plan to build a bicycle superhighway network in the coming years. And on these superhighways and other main cycle paths, cyclists are separated from motor vehicles, but still probably the most typical cycling routes is on local streets where cyclists and motor vehicles share the street. And on those streets, it's important that for instance, the speed limit is low enough, And in Helsinki, this means that it should be 30 kilometers per hour, usually when cyclists and motor vehicles share the street, and also other traffic calming measures are needed. And next, please. And superhighway network is one thing, but I think we still need to focus on those unsafe locations and intersections and find safety promoting actions on those spots, areas. And here are, first of all, one example of that. So one of the most dangerous places for cyclists where there have been many crashes in the recent years. So we redesign it in a way that we use so-called modal filter, meaning that motor vehicles were not anymore allowed to drive at that intersection, so they need to use the next street, which was also very good choice for motor vehicles. But in that case, we could prevent those many crashes that have happened between drivers and cyclists. Next, please. Another examples could be how we promote cycling when cycle path, and especially main cycle path, crosses the street. So whether cyclist or the driver should give way. And in this case, we before there was the case that cyclists should give way, but we redesign it and rebuild it in that way that cyclist has a right of way, and also the crossing was raised. So these are two examples of how these unsafe conditions were turned safer ones. And next, please. And one example also relates to speed management, is this automatic speed enforcement, which is also one important thing in Helsinki, and especially on those main streets where usually raised crossings or these kind of measures are not used. So Helsinki has at the moment about 50 automatic speed enforcement cameras on main and collector streets, and there also will be more in the future. And we have also studied the impacts of these enforcements and found that they have actually reduced the actual driving speeds, and not only next to this enforcement size, but also on a larger network. And next, please. And this automatic speed enforcement relates especially to main street areas, but on local streets, we'll like to highlight other traffic calming measures, and mainly physical traffic calming measures, which can be speed bumps, raised pedestrian crossings, or intersections, and or this kind of physical measures that make sure that people and drivers are not driving too fast. Yes, I think this was shortly presentation about traffic safety and Vision Zero in Helsinki, and there are also links to our recent traffic safety development program where you can find more information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Very interesting to hear. And I actually visited Helsinki last year, and I think it was a really nice city to walk in. So well done.
Good to hear.
Yeah. Okay. I now want all the panelists to put on their cameras so we can have a discussion session here before we sum up this webinar. I would just remind you who are listening to put your questions in the chat if you have any, or any reflections. Please do that. But since I see if we can see Hannah and Lina as well. Please put on your cameras.
Turn
Still
on my
there.
volume, but
Yeah.
the video is not working at the moment. It doesn't allow me to turn it on.
Okay, but we can hear you, and that's the most important thing, I think. Since I'm the moderator, I want to start to ask you a question, Lina, because tomorrow the Better Mobility Trend Report will be published. But what are your hopes about this report? How do you want the attendees here today, or people who reads this report, how do you hope they will use it in the future?
Now I'm allowed to. Perfect timing with you. So we think that, and we hope that this report is also another push and a starting point for companies, from startups to big companies, but also cities, to really see that accessibility is also a competitive advantage. I mean, you reach more users, you reach a broader target group, and really make use of that, and to also see where are the potentials. Just one example, there is very little like cross-sector solutions. So for example, there is only 5% of startups focusing on tourism, only 10% on health. And those are really big topics and high potential topics. So we do see that there is a potential for growth. So we hope a lot of, everyone will leverage on that. And of course, two things. One, apply for the Better Mobility Accelerator and get started together with us. There's also, through the website, you also see there are more webinars on how to apply and what's in and so on. So all the questions. And we are also happy to work with everyone together to really bring inclusive mobility forward.
Thank you. And Raoul, I think you're like working with similar things, and Lina said that it's not that many cases working cross sector, like it's often like one sector here and one there. And from my point of view, at least, I think that many like startups focus on technical solutions today. Is that right, or is it just me? Like, or because my question is like, how can mobility startups ensure that the solutions are like cross sectors, or not just tech driven, but also like socially inclusive and so on?
Yeah, that's a good point, and indeed, it's something that we stress our support upon when we, for example, conduct programs. We look for startups that address inclusivity not only with the approach that they have in their business, in their solutions, but also as a core for the startup itself, like the team that is behind that startup. We strive for have a gender balanced team and close the gender gap if we talk about gender. I cannot dare to say if we have more technologically complex solutions, if that was your question. But what we would do focus on is on the startups that we select for providing that support, that have this real impact that we can at the end measure and transform into a solution that is translated into our streets in the cities, and that tackles these safety issues, accessibility concerns, or inclusivity matters. And the examples that I gave there, for example, with the 5 different Raptor pilots, those are startups providing solutions that directly tackle these issues. And if I can expand a bit on the way I see entrepreneurship and the role it plays in shaping the cities of the future is quite crucial. So the bottom layer of innovation coming from R&D centers and being potentially converted in new startups, we provide that support and funding for these solutions to reach the market. And for example, via pilots, demonstrating that those solutions are relevant for public authorities, for city representatives, is the way that we can see building trust and also creating this ecosystem where we can have a word to say, okay, we're doing something that is changing the status quo.
It's very important to try it and see the results, so people also can like not only think it's a hard thing when something changes, but also see like this is actually really nice for me as a person living in the city.
Exactly, and seeing the results, I think it's quite the key for the pilots that we conduct. That not only the ones hosting the challenges, the cities, that also citizens can see the benefits of having these solutions implemented, even though being short periods of test. But at the end, what we're looking for is for a full scale and long-term implementation of those solutions if they demonstrate to solve that specific challenge.
But you have to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Very good, thank you. And I think this connects a bit to also like try things when it comes to traffic safety and speeds and so on. Ronnie, what what have the challenges been when implementing the lower speed limits in Helsinki? What is the reactions from politicians and from the people living in Helsinki? Have they always been happy, or was it a bit of a tricky part in the beginning?
Yeah, good questions. Not only easy decision, but I think our latest major speed limit changes were made in 2019 when 30 kilometers per hour was made almost general speed limit on local streets on residential areas, and it was not exactly easy decision to make because some politicians, also some people living in Helsinki, some associations were against lowering the speed limits, and finally the city board voted on it, and after which the changes were however approved. And I think the most important reasons for that were that reducing speed limit is quite cost effective safety measure also, and it also lowers crash costs. There should be less noise and pollutions. Walking and cycling should be perceived as more safe. So I think there are still many positive impacts there, and now 5 years after those decisions and changes, so we can see that I think nearly no one regrets lowering speed limits. So it seems that all people have accepted it, and at least we don't get any negative feedback about too low speed limits at the moment. So it's actually the other way around. So some people want that on those streets where we still have 40 or even 50, that we lower speed limits there, or we should use some other physical traffic calming measures. So I think it's more towards that direction at the moment.
Interesting. Have you done any studies of how people are moving in those areas where 30 is the new speed limit? Like, can you see that people are walking more on the streets or like hanging around or things like that?
Well, I think we don't have exact results about what is the difference between 30 kilometers per hour street and other streets, but yes, of course, we by reducing speed limits, this is also one target to give more like better streets for living and being there, and but of course we need to remember that speed limits is not the only thing. That's also some other physical structures are needed to make people feel that all streets are nice places to be there.
Of course, but the 30 could be a start there, I guess. I can't see any questions in the chat, so if you have any, this is the last chance to put them in the chat. Meanwhile, I wonder, Hannah, in Sweden, I mean, Finland in Sweden is actually connected in the north, and we actually share language, not in the whole country, but at least in some parts. What can we learn from Helsinki, and what is the case in Sweden? Is 30 also the speed limit in the cities in Sweden?
I think in general there is a lot of things to learn between especially the Nordic countries, because we are quite, I mean, of course there are differences between the countries, but there are also a lot of similarities, and in traffic safety implementation and implementing Vision Zero, the Nordic countries are all rather advanced. So I think we can learn a lot from each other. And when it comes to 30 kilometers per hour, I think also we can learn. And I mean, especially because you mentioned what are the driving forces? Why are we actually implementing 30 kilometers per hour in cities? I know that, for example, Malmö in the south of Sweden has implemented 30 kilometers per hour in a part of the central city, and the driving force in their implementation were actually that the police wanted that, because they wanted to, I don't know, I cannot find the word in English, but you know, have some order on the streets in order to stop people who were driving very offensive on the streets and so on. They have had a lot of problems with that. They say that they would have implemented 30 kilometers anyway, but it actually accelerated the implementation when the police we want it as well. So I think you can learn a lot between countries when it comes to driving forces and how you can frame a question. For example, how can you argue for 30 kilometers per hour to your politicians if we're talking on the local level, but also we have the national level where we want to change the base speed limit in Sweden to 30 kilometers per hour. I mean, the traffic safety community and mobility community, we want to do that. So, but how do we frame that question? What driving forces can we relate to? And I think we can look at examples from Finland and other countries to see how have they framed this question.
How have you framed it, Ronnie? Do you know?
Have we framed it? Well, at the city level in Helsinki, I think the traffic safety was the most important factor to boost this change towards the decision. But of course, in Finland, we still have in urban areas 50 kilometers per hour is the like actual speed limit in urban areas. Of course, many cities have lowered it, but at the national level, 50 kilometers per hour is the limit. Well, yeah, I think some discussions have been made whether it should be lower to 30 kilometers per hour, but I don't see any progress at the national level at the moment.
Thank you. And it's very interesting to think about the 30-kilometer speed limit and also how that actually affects everyone in the city when it comes to inclusiveness. Like we were talking about elderly and children also, and with the slide that you showed, Hannah, how it would affect both how you perceive the environment, but also the actual safety measures. So I think that's very interesting. I just want to say that we are hosting a new webinar in a month on the 26th of March at the same time and also on Zoom. But this time it will focus on how we can support women's careers when it comes to the mobility sector. So please join us there if you want to learn more. You can register with the QR code on the screen. And if you want to come in contact with any of the panelists, you can use my email address, and I will get to help you with the email addresses. So please reach out if you have any questions or comments or anything. With that said, I want to thank our panelists so much for coming, for giving really interesting presentations and also joining the discussion. That was it from us and from our webinar today. Thank you.